Deep in the misty swamps of the American South, a silent destroyer is tearing the land apart. Look at this. Sea turtle nests plundered, pristine wetlands turned into muddy craters, and ancient oak roots completely hollowed out overnight. It is not a hurricane. It is not a wildfire. It is a phantom that has been multiplying since the 16th century. And right now, it is winning a war against the most technologically advanced nation on Earth. My grandfather farmed this Texas soil for 50 years, and he always said, "When the forest goes silent, you run." Well, the woods are dead quiet tonight. If you want to uncover how this multi-billion-dollar ecological nightmare is unfolding, and the prehistoric beast waiting in the shadows to stop it, hit that subscribe button right now. Do not miss what is coming next, because the American wilderness will never be the same. Forget everything you think you know about those gentle pink pigs down on the family farm. What is stalking the American wilderness right now is a completely different beast. Meet Sus scrofa, the wild boar, an animal that biologists consider one of the most perfect biological invaders evolution has ever produced. When you look into the eyes of a wild hog, you are not looking at livestock. You are looking at an armored survival machine. They have thick, cartilaginous shields across their shoulders that can literally stop a small caliber bullet, razor-sharp tusks that sharpen themselves every time they open and close their jaws, and a snout built like a hydraulic shovel. These creatures were never meant to be here, yet they have mastered our landscape better than the native wildlife that spent millions of years evolving for it. To understand how we reached this point of crisis, we have to rewind the clock back to the 16th century. When Spanish explorers stepped onto North American shores, they brought domestic swine with them as a walking pantry. Some of those animals escaped into the wild, adapted to the harsh forests and swamps, and began a quiet conquest that has lasted for over 400 years. Today, that slow burn has exploded into a full-blown wildfire. From the murky bayous of Louisiana and the endless brush of Texas, all the way up to the colder northern states, these invaders have established a stronghold in 35 different states. Biologists estimate there are now between 6 and 9 million wild hogs roaming free across the nation, and their territory is expanding every single day. This invasion is not just an American phenomenon, as invasive species are changing ecosystems all across the globe. Where are you watching this video from? Please tell us your country or city in the comments, and let's explore together. The real reason this invasion feels so unstoppable comes down to simple, terrifying math. Wild hogs possess a reproductive superpower that defies the laws of population control. A single female hog can reach sexual maturity at just 6 months old and can produce 2 litters of piglets every single year, with an average of 6 to 8 piglets per litter. Under the right conditions, a local hog population can literally double its numbers in just 120 days. If you remove even 50% of a herd from a property, the remaining hogs will bounce back and replace those lost numbers before the year is even over. They are outbreeding our ability to hunt them, and they are doing it with ruthless efficiency. Once a sounder of hogs moves into an area, the ecological destruction is swift and absolute. These animals are opportunistic omnivores, meaning they will eat virtually anything they can get their jaws around. They act like vacuum cleaners across the forest floor, systematically stripping the land of resources that native species desperately need to survive. They actively hunt down and consume the eggs of ground-nesting birds like the bobwhite quail, and along our southern coastlines, they dig up and devour endangered sea turtle nests before the hatchlings ever see the ocean. Watch a drone fly over a Georgia forest or a Texas pasture after a hog herd has moved through, and the ground looks like it was hit by a carpet bombing raid. They overturn millions of tons of soil every year, destroying native plant roots, polluting freshwater streams with sediment, and triggering massive erosion that ruins the land for decades. The cost of this feeding frenzy is staggering. American farmers and ranchers are on the front lines of a nightmare, waking up to find entire fields of corn, soybeans, peanuts, and sorghum completely leveled overnight. The national price tag for this agricultural and environmental vandalism has now surpassed $2.1 billion every single year, and that bill is only getting higher. But perhaps the most heartbreaking damage cannot be measured in dollars and cents. These wild hogs have no regard for what is sacred. In their endless search for roots and grubs, they are routinely tearing through Native American burial grounds, historic cemeteries, and centuries-old archaeological sites, literally destroying irreplaceable pieces of human history just to grab a quick meal. They are smarter than dogs, tougher than wolves, and multiplying faster than we can pull the trigger. We are dealing with an apex invader that has completely outsmarted us on land. So, how do we fight back against an invader that reproduces faster than cell division and tears up everything in its path? Well, we did what America does best. We turned it into a war zone, deploying the kind of heavy military-grade tech you would expect to see in a high-stakes tactical operation. This is not just hunting anymore. It has evolved into a high-tech, multi-million-dollar war of attrition. Farmers, wildlife agencies, and private contractors have teamed up, throwing everything in our technological arsenal at these animals, hoping to finally turn the tide. If you head down to Texas, you will witness the most extreme front of this battle: aerial gunning. Imagine standing in an open field, hearing the distant, heavy chop of a helicopter blades cutting through the humid air. Suddenly, a low-flying chopper screams over the tree line, banking hard just feet above the canopy. Inside, professional marksmen are strapped into the open doors, clutching semi-automatic rifles. Below them, a sounder of 30 wild hogs breaks from the brush, scattering across the open dirt in sheer panic. The guns start barking, brass casings rain down into the mud, and for a few chaotic minutes, it looks like humanity is finally winning. It is loud, intense, and looks incredibly effective. And when the sun goes down, the war just shifts to a different frequency. Operators launch thermal imaging drones high into the midnight sky. Looking at the operator screens, the pitch-black forest below turns into a glowing map of heat signatures. You can see the cold blue outlines of the trees, and then, suddenly, a cluster of bright, blazing white spots moving through the undergrowth like a ghost fleet. These thermal eyes in the sky guide ground teams directly to the herds, stripping away the cover of darkness that the hogs have relied on for centuries. At the same exact time, miles away, a landowner is sitting in his living room, staring at his smartphone. He is monitoring a MINE trapping system, a massive circular steel enclosure set up deep in the woods. Hogs are incredibly suspicious of new structures, so the trap has been left open for days, filled with corn, letting them get comfortable. On the phone screen, via a live satellite camera feed, one hog enters, then another, and soon the entire family herd of 20 is inside, greedily feeding. The landowner taps a single red button on his touchscreen. Instantly, a massive steel drop gate slams shut with a deafening metallic crash that echoes through the quiet forest. The hogs are trapped, completely frantic, slamming their heavy bodies against the iron bars. It feels like we have won, right? With helicopters, thermal drones, and satellite-activated traps, we should have wiped them out by now. But here is the cold, hard truth that will make your stomach drop. We are losing. We are losing badly. When you crunch the actual biological data, the reality of this war is absolutely devastating. Wildlife biologists have run the numbers, and the math is completely unforgiving. To simply keep the wild hog population from growing, to just freeze their numbers exactly where they are today, we have to systematically hunt down and destroy 66 to 70% of the entire national population every single year. Let that sink in for a second. We have to wipe out nearly 750,000 of animals every 12 months just to stay in the exact same place. And what are we actually achieving with all our helicopters, high-tech traps, and night vision gear? We are barely scraping 29%. All of our expensive technology, all of our spent ammunition, and all of our tactical planning are not even meeting half of the bare minimum required to stop their advance. While we celebrate catching 20 hogs in a high-tech trap, 50 more are being born in the next county over. The wild hogs have adapted to our war tactics. They are learning to recognize the sound of helicopter rotors, retreating deep into the thickest briar patches where shooters cannot get a clean angle. They are learning to avoid the bait inside our traps, passing the knowledge down to their young. We are spending millions of dollars, pouring endless sweat and blood into the soil, and yet the phantom in the swamp keeps marching forward, conquering more territory every single day. Right when we are on the verge of total frustration, realizing that human technology has met its match, we have to look away from our machines. Because deep in the quiet, unforgiving swamps of Louisiana, where our helicopters cannot fly and our drones cannot see, a prehistoric force is waiting in the dark, ready to do what we cannot. To understand how we might finally win this war, we have to step away from our expensive machines, shut off the roaring helicopter engines, and leave the high-tech command centers behind. We need to go where the concrete roads end and the black waters begin. Let us travel deep into the heart of the Louisiana bayou, where the air is thick with humidity, and the silence is so heavy you can hear your own heartbeat. Out here, the high-tech gadgets of the modern world feel completely useless. The endless maze of cypress trees and Spanish moss creates a natural fortress, a place where humans are just temporary visitors. But this misty wilderness is not empty. While we have been busy failing with our million-dollar military technology, the natural world has been quietly preparing its own response. The transition is stark. One moment you are looking at a sleek, vibrating helicopter dashboard, and the next, you are staring at a completely motionless patch of dark green duckweed on the water surface. The swamp looks totally empty, almost peaceful. But then, if you watch closely, the water ripples just a fraction of an inch. Two ancient, cold, yellow-amber eyes slowly break through the dark surface without making a single sound. Below those eyes lies a massive, armored body, perfectly camouflaged to look exactly like a rotting cypress log. This is the American alligator. This creature does not need GPS. It does not need satellite-activated cages, and it certainly does not care about our budgets. It has survived multiple ice ages, witnessed the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, and perfected the art of the ambush over 80 million years of evolution. For a long time, people thought these prehistoric reptiles were just lazy, opportunistic feeders that only snapped at passing fish, turtles, or the occasional small mammal. But as the wild hog population began spilling out of the forests and invading the wet edges of the swamps, something fascinating started to happen. Nature began to rewrite the rules of engagement. Biologists working in the coastal marshes started noticing a strange pattern, prompting them to look closer at what these giant reptiles were actually eating. They collected stomach samples and ran advanced DNA tests on the contents. What they discovered shook the scientific community and completely changed how we view the hog crisis. The laboratory results were undeniable. When researchers analyzed the digestive tracts of large alligators, they did not just find fish scales and crab shells. Instead, the data revealed a massive presence of mammal hair, bone fragments, and heavy hoof material. The genetic markers pointed directly to one culprit, Sus scrofa, the wild boar. In some coastal marsh areas, wild hogs had actually become the primary source of protein for large adult alligators. These reptiles were not just eating the occasional piglet by accident, they were actively, systematically targeting them. This is where the entire narrative shifts. It turns out that while we have been struggling to recruit enough human hunters, we have had a highly trained biological army waiting in the water this entire time. The alligator is uniquely equipped to handle a beast as tough as a wild hog. A mature hog has thick skin, sharp tusks, and a nasty attitude, making it a dangerous target for almost any land predator. But in the water, those advantages completely evaporate. To an alligator, a hog swimming across a bayou or drinking at the muddy edge is just a loud, clumsy package of fat and muscle. The alligator possesses a bite force of over 2,000 pounds per square inch, easily enough to crush the thickest bones. Once those jaws lock onto a hog, the struggle is practically over, dragged down into the dark water where the rules of the land no longer apply. This discovery brings a flicker of genuine hope to a situation that felt completely desperate just a moment ago. It reminds us that no matter how chaotic an ecological disaster seems, nature always strives toward equilibrium. When an invasive species floods an ecosystem, the local predators eventually learn to adapt, turning the invaders into a new resource. The alligator is not acting out of patriotism, and it is not trying to save American agriculture. It is simply doing what it has always done, surviving by consuming whatever is abundant. As the hog numbers grew, the alligators simply looked at the shoreline and saw an endless, free buffet. But this relationship is far from simple. And as we look closer at this battle of titans, we realize this is not a one-sided slaughter. It is a brutal, chaotic, and deeply personal war between two of the toughest creatures on the continent. This is where the quiet tension of the swamp shatters into pure, unadulterated violence. To understand how brutal this struggle really is, you have to picture the scene at the water edge. A large sounder of wild hogs, led by a massive, aggressive sow, cautiously emerges from the thick brush. The piglets are squealing, and the larger hogs are grunting, their heavy hooves sinking into the soft black mud. They are incredibly thirsty after a long day of foraging in the hot sun. They slowly line up along the bank, lowering their heads to drink, completely unaware of the threat lingering just inches below the dark water. Underneath that murky surface, a 12-foot alligator has been tracking them for over an hour. It moves with a terrifying, ghost-like precision. No splashing, no ripples, not even a single bubble rises to betray its presence. It positions itself right beneath the shadow of a fallen cypress branch. The alligator waits until the largest hog takes one step too close to the drop-off. Suddenly, the water does not just splash, it literally explodes. In a fraction of a second, the alligator launches its massive body forward, its jaws gaping wide. The sound is like a thunderclap in the quiet swamp. Those powerful jaws snap shut with bone-crushing force right around the neck of a 150-pound hog. The rest of the herd panics, squealing in terror as they scatter back into the brush, their hooves kicking up mud. The mother sow charges toward the water, snapping her jaws and letting out a deep, guttural roar of defiance. But it is already too late. The alligator shifts its massive body weight, dragging the thrashing hog backward into the deep channel. It initiates the legendary death roll, spinning its body rapidly underwater to disorient the prey and break its resistance. The struggle is violent, muddy, and brief. Within seconds, the surface of the bayou settles back into a calm, glassy silence, leaving only a trail of bubbles and a red tint in the dark water. But do not make the mistake of thinking this is a one-way street. These wild hogs are not just helpless victims waiting to be eaten. They are ruthless, intelligent, and highly vengeful. In fact, they have launched a devastating counteroffensive against the very creatures that hunt them. During the hot summer months, female alligators painstakingly build large nests of mud, peat, and rotting vegetation along the marsh banks to protect their eggs. It is a grueling process, and the mother alligator will guard that nest fiercely. But she cannot be there every second of the day. She must occasionally slide back into the water to cool her body or hunt. That is when the hogs strike. An adult hog has a sense of smell so sharp it can detect a buried egg from miles away. When a sounder of hogs finds an unguarded alligator nest, the scene turns into absolute carnage. They use their rock-hard snouts to rip the nest apart, scattering the protective vegetation everywhere. They dig up the leathery white eggs, crushing them between their flat teeth and greedily swallowing the half-formed hatchlings inside. A single family of hogs can wipe out an entire generation of future apex predators in less than 20 minutes. They are literally eating the future of their only natural enemy. It is a brutal circular war where the predator eats the adult and the prey devours the babies. Faced with this chaotic ecological breakdown, desperate humans have tried to intervene with extreme measures. Scientists in laboratories have been actively testing a chemical weapon called sodium nitrite. It is a common meat preservative, but in high doses, it stops oxygen from reaching the vital organs of hogs, effectively putting them to sleep permanently. On paper, it sounds like the ultimate silver bullet, but the reality of deploying poison in the wild is terrifying. The swamp is not a sterile lab. If you leave poisoned bait out for hogs, you cannot control who eats it. A curious black bear, a wandering raccoon, or an endangered bald eagle feeding on a poisoned hog carcass could easily ingest the toxin. We risk wiping out our own precious native wildlife in a clumsy attempt to play God. When you look at the risks of our chemical experiments, you realize that human technology is still too blunt of an instrument for a problem this complex. The natural world has spent millions of years perfecting its own checks and balances. We do not need to dump dangerous chemicals into our soils. We just need to step back and let the ancient armored guardians of the swamp do the job they were born to do. This billion-dollar war won't end with a grand victory or a signed peace treaty. It is a slow, relentless tug-of-war. But places like Cameron Parish and Street, Catherine's Island prove that when we protect our native predators, nature heals itself. The real lesson here? We cannot always engineer our way out of the messes we create. Sometimes, we just have to trust the wild to find its own balance. Every hog removed is not just a statistic, it is a lifeline for a sea turtle, a bobwhite quail, and the soul of the American wilderness. What do you think is the best way to handle this crisis? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button to join our journey, and I will see you all in the next video.